What is up, Nerf Nation? I'm Naptown Nerf, and today we're going to take a look at all 4 different types of the Rayven and see how they are similar, different, and kind of the evolution from start to the Rayvenfire that we have today. There are obviously very, very similar blasters, but there's some differences between them, and who knows, maybe we'll catch a few more as we take an in-depth look into what the Rayven is all about. Alright, you guys, so of course we're going to start out with the first Rayven, the N-strike Green Rayven. Really cool blaster. It set a lot of firsts actually for Nerf and the N-strike line. It was the first flywheel powered, magazine fed or clip fed blaster in the line, so that was really cool. It was, I think, one of the last, if not the last blaster to come out in the N-strike line, which was also interesting. And it came with this really cool 18-round magazine, which was a Firefly Tech mag, so it could charge glow darts. So this actually also came with 18 glow darts when you bought it originally. So that was really cool, and then allowed you to fire your darts at night and see your darts. So that's pretty darn cool. Really neat that the Rayven also had a very compact design because of its bullpup design, and this was the first and I believe the only flywheel blaster that Nerf has ever made in the bullpup configuration. So that allowed Nerf to make a very compact blaster, and I think that's really, really cool. Of course, the paint scheme is pretty ordinary on this one. There isn't really anything cool going on. At least they've been consistent on both sides of this blaster. They did paint the Nerf logo on here and the stuff on this side the same as they did on this side. So I'm glad they did that. Obviously we have our greenish yellowy plastic here, and then this part was painted a kind of a tan gray, I would say. So an interesting color combination. Not my favorite for sure, but definitely neat, and this was definitely a first when it came out in, I believe, 2012. So pretty cool design, and obviously it was popular back when it first came out and still very popular today. So we will move on to the Elite Rayven. Alright, so this is the Nerf Elite Rayven CS18. They actually even wrote that onto the label there. They called the normal N-strike Green Rayven CS18 also, but it was not written on the blaster. But just like the Green Rayven, this one is set up very, very similar with a Firefly Tech 18-round magazine, which is really cool. It also came with glow darts, obviously, with that mag, and then they really went all out on the paint job on the Elite Rayven. Very, very cool paint job. Obviously, this is probably my favorite painted Elite blaster out there. It's probably also my favorite painted Rayven. So I really like this one a lot. It has a really cool big white stripe on both sides, which is really cool. And then they went along the top of that with a gray stripe, which I thought was really cool. And then they painted the grip black and white, which is really neat, along with the normal gray, and did that obviously on both sides. And then they've added touches of green on the logo, which is really cool. And I just think this is a really nice looking Rayven. I really do like it a lot. Obviously they painted this black back here on the stock part, so pretty cool looking Rayven. I think this was actually one of the first Elite blasters to come out in the line, which is also really cool, and definitely one of the best looking. So I can't say too many bad things about this blaster. It also came out with a major performance boost. It performed quite a bit better than the original Green Rayven, and that is because it got, I think, a little bit better motors inside of it. I'm not sure if the flywheels are different or not, but definitely a much better performing blaster and very, very cool looking. So with that, let's go ahead and move on to the most rare Rayven of them all, the Stinger Rayven. So of course this is the very rare Stinger Rayven, or the Nerf Elite Stinger Rayven CS12 actually. It only came with a 12-round magazine, but that's okay because this thing is pretty darn cool and unique. It was a Sam's exclusive, bringing back the yellow N-strike plastic, which is pretty cool, and has a very simple paint job, but a very cool paint job, kind of similar to the Gear Up style paint job. And it's on both sides, but as you can see, they did not paint any of the logos actually on this side, which I would rather that than the opposite, but nevertheless, very cool looking blaster. I really do like this one a lot. One of my favorite parts about this blaster is the metallic silver paint they use on the grip and on the back of the stock here. I really like that a lot, and I can't really think of another blaster they've used a metallic-y paint on before, so I really do like that. I think that's really cool looking, and this is just a gem because of how rare it is. Although I do prefer the Elite paint scheme, the blue Elite paint scheme, to this, I think that this is a very nice looking blaster and also one of my favorites. So really awesome blaster, and let's go ahead and move on to the Rayvenfire. So the Rayvenfire is obviously the newest in the line. It just recently came out for sale at Kohl's, so it's pretty cool. It's really nice to have these back after a long absence and with a brand new paint scheme. Although, as I harped on in my review video, it's only on one side, so that really is a bummer, because this would have been a really cool looking blaster if they did paint that on both sides. That being said, I do think the color combination of the blue, white, and orange is really nice. I like the white shell with the blue stripes here and then the orange lines. I'm not sure if we're going to see this paint scheme in other blasters or not, but this is a Kohl's exclusive, so very similar to the Stinger Rayven. It's an exclusive to one store, so you may only see it at that store and may become pretty darn rare in the future. Who knows, depending on how long Kohl's sells it for, and if they continue to sell it for their crazy high prices, I doubt too many people will pick them up. Nevertheless, very, very nice looking blaster. This one only comes with a 10-round magazine, but a very cool looking one, and white and clear. I think that's a really nice looking mag. I think the best part about this blaster is that we have the Rayven back, and obviously it's a big win for the community, as the Rayven is very sought after for a number of things. A lot of people really love this blaster because it is a bullpup design, but some people like it to use as a bullpup blaster, and some people like to use it as a stock that can hold a magazine for an integration like a Straven or what have you. So both uses have become extremely popular, and I think the Rayven is by far one of the most popular blasters in the Nerf lineup. Alright, you guys, let's take an internal look at all these Ravens, but before we do that, I want to say one thing, that unlike the other three Ravens, this one they have solvent welded along this line. Now, every Rayven that I've opened, at least for the first time, has been pretty sticky in this area. So you use a similar technique usually to get it apart anyways, but this one takes a little more doing, and you have to be a little more careful because it is actually glued and not just tight right in here. But I basically got under it with a small screwdriver, and you just get under it with a flathead and you kind of just pry up like this and go along, and then sometimes I get a bigger one in there to kind of hold it, and then if I can use the bigger one, I use that. So just a kind of a combination, and then just kind of doing this number along the way and trying to be as careful as possible. I don't know why they did that. It really sucks that they've done that, but when I got inside here, it was very interesting because they have moved the thermistor board, I believe that's what that is, back here, and they've actually added a thing to hold it in back there, which you don't see on any of the other Ravens. All the other Ravens in this portion look like this. So it used to sit right here, and now they've moved it back there for whatever reason. I don't know. And they've had to add a part to the mold to do that. So it's very weird that they just moved that location. That might have something to do with why they decided they needed to glue that part. I don't know. It's not that big a deal. I mean, to us, it really doesn't matter where it is, but it's just strange to me why they decided to do that. So the Rayven is very similar internally, obviously. They are all, for the most part, the same, but one thing I noticed with my Elite blaster, and this one actually, compared to the green one, and there are some other differences, but this one can matter, especially if you're adding a full auto kit, and I'll explain why here in a second. Oh, this one has 3 screws. I think the other ones only have 2. So that's another change they made, which is weird. They took out that screw port. This one is a thin... This one's different too than the other green one I opened. It must have been a different green one, because this one is thin in here. That's really strange. Okay, well this one's thin too here, but I've opened a green one where that is fat, and I'm gonna show you the Stinger, which came out way after this one did, and after the Elite one. The Stinger here, let's see what this looks like. Make sure I'm not going crazy. So as you can see, this piece is much thicker than that one, which most of the time that I've opened a green one, it's like this, and this is the same as the white and the Elite Rayven that at least I own, which is really strange why they've gone back and forth with how thick this part is. I really don't know. Like, I'm surprised, because the other green one I opened was like this one, and this one is thin. So there's a variance between, depending, it doesn't even matter exactly what model you have, but in terms of color, they could be different internally just for whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe they were made in different factories with two different molds. I'm really confused. Alright, so actually getting into this has turned out to be even more interesting than I originally thought, but there are two different molds for the Rayven throughout its run, even in the same line. Like this N-strike original Green Rayven is the thin version, and you can tell this, I figured this out, you can tell this without even opening up the blaster. If this part right here is not flat and it has an angle, if it has a line there and an angle, that means it is the thin version, because this battery tray has been pushed up. This InStrike Green Rayven, this one is flat. Perfectly flat here, and that means the battery tray is lower, and this will have a fat one. So I'm going to open this up just to prove that. So there you go. That is the fat one. And these are both in the same line, and there's two different molds, obviously, so they must have been assembled in either two different factories, but they've gone back and forth throughout the line. Now, like specialty ones like the new Rayvenfire and the Stinger Rayven, as far as I know, at least with the Stinger Rayven, they are all the original. Or I don't know which one's the original, but I'm assuming that this is the original, since the white one has the angle, but that's really irrelevant. This one is flat, just like all three Stingers I have are flat, but this one obviously has an angle on it, so it is a thinner pusher arm, or not pusher arm, but pusher guide arm, I guess, along with the new model, at least so far. This has this angle here, and a thinner pusher guide arm. The one Elite blaster that I have open is also the thin version. So I'll go ahead and open this one up. This has the angle, and as you can see, it has a thin guide pusher arm. I purchased a full auto kit from the Hooligan Blaster Company, and they have a thick arm here. So this kit will only work in the versions that have the flat battery area down here, and therefore having the thicker arm, unlike this Elite one and this InStrike one. So it's very interesting. I'm very confused why that is. If somebody has an idea why they did that, please let me know in the comments below. I am kind of confused, especially now that I opened another green one and it has a thin arm. That really confused me. I thought it was somewhere through the cycle. Maybe I got a later version of the Elite Rayven, and that's why it's different than the Stinger Rayven here that came out really in the middle of the Elite Rayven run. I do believe this one stopped and they were still selling the Elite Rayven, but I could be wrong on that. I'm not 100% sure which one ended first. I know that I was able to get some Elite Rayvens a few years back on Amazon after this one had been discontinued at Sam's. So I thought that that was the reason why maybe they switched it halfway through the run of the Elite series, but it doesn't look that way at all. It looks like there's maybe two different places that the Rayven is made, and with two separate molds. Now, very small and hard to notice unless you get really in depth like I have here and compare the two. So something very interesting there. Just something to note if you're trying to find replacement parts for your Rayven, or if you're trying to add a full auto kit, to know which version you have. I don't know if Hooligan's still going to be making these. I'm not really sure what's happening with that company right now, but anyone else in the future that makes a full auto kit for the Rayven, make sure you have two versions of your pusher arm. So sorry for the rambling, but I think it's something that is worth pointing out. So this is the plate from the green N-strike Rayven, and then this is what it looked like from the Elite series on. And also, some of the models have this screw port chopped off because it's not used anymore, and other ones don't, so that really just depends. And then they added this screw port here to the model after the Elite Rayven because of this change. Alright, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this really in-depth look into the Rayven, and the things we found out today were pretty interesting to me. I was pretty surprised to see the differences and the going back and forth between the molds throughout the evolution of the Rayven. Let me know what your favorite of the 4 Ravens is in the comment section below. Let me know if you have any input onto these things that I kind of pointed out in the video. And don't forget, smash that like button. Please subscribe. And as always, peace out.